Olivia's story starts at a Thanksgiving dinner where her family disowns her, thinking she's failed. Little do they know, just moments later, the news behind them will announce her $100 million success. A tale of betrayal, ambition, and redemption is about to unfold. Stick around, because you won't want to miss what happens next. The room was quiet, save for the soft clink of crystal glasses and the low hum of ambient jazz filling the air. Thanksgiving dinner at my parents' estate had always been a formal affair, one that my mother, Megan, insisted on hosting every year. She'd always made it look like the perfect family gathering. But this year was different. It felt more like a courtroom than a celebration. And I was the defendant in the dock, though I didn't even have a lawyer. My body trembled slightly as I gripped the stem of my water glass, my knuckles turning white. I hadn't slept in 2 days, running on a toxic mix of caffeine, adrenaline, and the kind of exhaustion that made my head spin whenever I turned too quickly. My eyes stung from lack of sleep, and I knew I looked terrible. My blazer was 3 years old, the cuffs fraying at the edges. My hair was pulled back in a messy bun, something practical, nothing like the polished look everyone else had at the table. I hadn't had the time or money for a salon visit in months. I felt their eyes on me, and I knew what they saw. To them, I was a failure, a burnout, a woman pushing 30 who was still chasing a dream, while they, the adults, handled the real business. The fire crackled in the hearth, casting long shadows against the polished mahogany bookshelves. But it wasn't enough to mask the chill that had settled in the room. The walls of the colonial-style mansion, filled with the smell of lemon polish and old money, suddenly felt cold and suffocating. My father, William, sat across from me, his figure towering in a high-backed leather chair. He was the epitome of the titan of industry. He saw himself as silver hair, perfectly combed. His tailored suit, probably worth more than my entire rent for the year. A glass of scotch rested on his knee, and his piercing gaze locked onto me, cold and judgmental. "Olivia, are you even listening?" His voice cut through the fog in my brain, and I blinked, trying to focus. "I'm listening, Dad," I rasped, my throat dry, trying to make myself heard. "I'm just tired." He scoffed, exchanging a glance with Megan, who was perched on the sofa next to him, picking imaginary lint off her skirt, her eyes not quite meeting mine. "You're always tired, Olivia," he said dismissively, as though it were some personal failing on my part. "That's what happens when you refuse to get a real job with consistent hours." It wasn't the first time he'd said it, and it wouldn't be the last, but it hit harder this time. There was something so final in his tone, like he'd already decided who I was, who I would always be. A failure. The thought stung, but it wasn't new. I'd lived with it for years, yet in that moment, it hurt more than ever. My eyes flicked over to Julian, standing by the mantel, swirling his drink with that smug smile plastered across his face. He looked like he'd just stepped out of a yacht owner's catalog. A carefully curated image of success, the golden child. His gaze swept over me, sharp and calculating, and I knew exactly what he was thinking. "Let Dad finish." "Liv," Julian interjected, his voice smooth and condescending. "It's important." I wanted to say something, to defend myself, but I couldn't. My mind was a haze, and my body was so weary. The words wouldn't come. Instead, I sat there, silent, knowing this conversation wasn't about me at all. It was about them, about their need to justify their decisions, their need to put me in my place. William cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention back to him. His eyes locked onto mine with that cold finality that made my chest tighten. "Your mother and I have been doing some estate planning," he said, the words formal, calculated, as though this were just another business meeting. With the market being what it is and my retirement approaching, we have to be pragmatic about the future of the company and the family assets. I nodded slowly, my mind still foggy from exhaustion. I didn't know where this was going, but I had a sinking feeling that I wouldn't like it. Okay, I muttered, not sure if I was speaking to him or just to fill the silence. We've made a decision, William continued, his eyes never leaving mine. Effective immediately, I am transferring the majority ownership of the firm to Julian. He will be named CEO next month. My stomach dropped. It wasn't surprising. Julian had been groomed for this role since birth. They'd always treated him like the heir while I was, well, whatever I was. I didn't have a title. I didn't have a legacy, but hearing it out loud, hearing my father's cold announcement, still felt like a punch to the gut. Congratulations, Julian, I said automatically, my voice barely above a whisper, the words feeling empty as soon as they left my mouth. I didn't mean it. I didn't want to say it, but it came out anyway, like I had no control over my own body. Megan, who had been quiet up until now, piped up, her voice light and airy, as though she were discussing the weather. There's more, she added, her eyes flicking to me with an air of finality. Since Julian will be shouldering the burden of the family legacy, we felt it was only fair that the assets reflect that responsibility. I swallowed hard, not understanding where this was going. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in. We've signed over the deed to the city condo to him and Sophie, she continued, her words casual, like she was discussing a piece of property, and the lake house. My heart sank. The condo that I'd been promised just a year ago when I was still trying to get my business off the ground. The condo that had been my safety net, my one place of stability in a life that had been anything but. But you told me last year that if I ever needed a place to stay while the startup got off the ground, the condo was available. I said, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to stay calm. I felt the blood drain from my face. My parents had known what I was going through, how hard I was working. They knew I was struggling. And yet here they were, taking that small piece of security away from me without a second thought. Plans change, William said sharply, his voice cutting through the silence like a knife. And frankly, Olivia, we can't keep enabling this hobby of yours. It's been 5 years. You have nothing to show for it but dark circles under your eyes and a mountain of debt. I could feel my breath catch in my throat. We're doing this for your own good, Julian added, his grin widening. We're cutting you off, he clarified, the malice in his voice barely hidden. From the will, from the trust, from everything. Dad thinks it's the sink or swim moment you need to finally grow up. My body went numb. The betrayal hit me like a wave, crashing over me, pulling me under. It wasn't just about the money, though, that stung, too. It was the emotional severance, the cruelty of it all. I had never asked them for a dime. Not once. I had bootstrapped every cent for my business, yet here they were, acting like I was a burden. So I get nothing, I whispered, my voice barely audible. My heart felt like it was being crushed under the weight of their words. I'm your daughter. You're a liability, William said flatly, his eyes not even flinching as he took a sip of his scotch. Julian is the future. You are a cautionary tale. I couldn't breathe. The words stung. They hurt more than anything else. For a moment, the silence in the room was deafening. All I could hear was the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway, counting down the seconds of my humiliation. Sophie, ever the supportive sister-in-law, finally broke the silence. She snapped her gum loudly, a habit she only indulged in when she wanted to appear completely uninterested, and looked me up and down, her eyes narrowing. Honestly, Liv, she said, her tone dripping with condescension. It's better this way. Julian and I need the space. We're thinking of expanding the family soon, and that condo is perfect for a nursery. I could feel my blood boiling. You can't expect mom and dad to hold on to prime real estate just because you're playing hacker in a basement somewhere, she finished, her smile sickeningly sweet. I don't live in a basement, I said, my voice steadying despite the tremor in my hands. I live in a studio. Same difference. Julian laughed, his tone mocking. Come check this out, he added, pushing himself away from the mantel and walking toward the window. Since the announcement is official, I figured I could finally bring the new toy around. My stomach twisted as we all moved to the window. Outside, parked in the circular driveway, was a brand new luxury sports car. Slate gray, sleek, low to the ground, and easily worth $150,000. Company car, I asked, trying to keep my voice even. Signing bonus, Julian corrected, winking at William. Dad wanted to make sure the new CEO looked the part. I felt a wave of nausea rise in my throat. You bought him a Porsche, I said, my voice thick with disbelief. You told me last week you couldn't co-sign a lease for a server farm because cash flow was tight. Cash flow is tight for risky ventures, William said dismissively, waving his hand as though I were a child with a simple misunderstanding. Investments in Julian are a sure thing. He's family, he's loyal, he's here actually working, not chasing fantasies. And that's when it hit me. They didn't see me. Not really. Not for who I was invisible to them, a ghost haunting their perfect portrait. And that thought, more than anything, stung. I felt an icy pang in my chest. Don't be jealous. Darling, my mother said, her voice soft and condescending. She patted my arm. The touch, not one of comfort, but of ownership. It's unbecoming. Julian has worked very hard for this. I nearly choked on the word, hard. He came into the office at 11 in the morning, took 2-hour lunches, and spent the rest of the day playing golf on the office simulator. Meanwhile, I had spent the last 5 years coding, eating ramen, and fixing bugs until my eyes bled. I looked at my family, at Julian, at my father, at my mother, and I realized something. They thought they had won, but they hadn't. Not yet. They had forgotten one crucial thing. Success isn't something that's handed to you. It's something you build, and I had built something they could never understand. Julian leaned against the mantel, swirling his drink with that perfect, practiced smile on his face. His posture was effortless, as though he were posing for a photo shoot instead of standing in the middle of my parents' drawing room. He wore his success like a tailored suit, flawless, polished, and completely empty. But that smile, that self-assuredness cut through the air like a knife. So, Julian said, turning toward me with a sly grin. How's the startup going? Live still playing pretend with computers. His voice dripped with disdain. He knew exactly what to say to hit me where it hurt, to remind me of all the times I'd failed in his eyes. It's called Streamline, I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. I wasn't looking for his approval. I was just stating a fact, as if I could remind myself of why I was still standing, still fighting. But he just chuckled, the sound hollow and patronizing. Right, Streamline, he repeated, like it was some joke he was telling himself. Sounds like a diet pill or something. Sophie, his wife, giggled beside him, her eyes not quite meeting mine. Her gaze was more calculating, as if she had already decided who the winner was in this family drama. And it sure as hell wasn't me. It's an algorithmic optimization tool for high bandwidth data transfer, I said, my words automatic now. The pitch I'd recited 1,000 times to anyone who would listen, to anyone who mattered. Julian's laugh interrupted me before I could finish. Boring, he sang, his voice a mockery. Liv, seriously, when are you going to give it up? You're almost 30. You're single. You're broke. It's embarrassing for the family. The words hung in the air, sharp and biting. I felt a flush of heat rush to my face, but I refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing me react. Instead, I focused on the small thread hanging loose at the cuff of my blazer. There was nothing new in his words, nothing I hadn't heard before, but still, it stung. What I realized in that moment, what made the sting sharper than it ever had been before, was that Julian didn't even see me. Not really. He saw a person who didn't fit into the neat little boxes he had created for everyone around him. He saw someone who had failed to live up to the life he had scripted for her. But what he didn't see, what he could never see, was that I wasn't trying to play by his rules. I wasn't competing for his approval. I had built something of my own, something that didn't require his validation. The silence hung for a moment, and then William, my father, spoke up, his voice as cold and detached as always. "Julian's right, Olivia," he said, leaning forward in his chair, that glass of scotch still in his hand. "You're almost 30. It's time to let go of these dreams and face reality." The words hit me, not because they were new, God knows I'd heard them all before, but because of the casual, dismissive way they were spoken. They weren't meant to inspire me to try harder. They were meant to crush me. I looked at my father, at his perfectly tailored suit and his carefully curated image of success, and I felt a strange emptiness settle in my chest. They truly didn't see me. They didn't understand the work, the sacrifices, the sleepless nights I had spent building something that, to them, was just a hobby. It was a slap in the face. And yet, in that moment, something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to let them define me anymore. I wasn't going to let their mockery, their condescension, break me. I had come too far. "You're content to wallow in mediocrity," William continued, his voice growing louder now, "while Julian is out there conquering the world." The irony of his words made my stomach churn. Julian hadn't conquered anything. He had been handed every opportunity, every advantage, on a silver platter. His business acumen was as thin as the silk tie he wore, and yet here he was, basking in the glow of an inheritance that he hadn't worked a day for. He had been raised to think the world owed him something, and he took it all, everything handed to him, with a smile and a handshake. Meanwhile, I had spent 5 years in a cramped studio apartment, coding for hours on end, surviving on ramen noodles and the flickering glow of a computer screen. I had fought for every single inch of progress, and I hadn't once asked for their help. And yet, there he was, mocking me. Julian's voice broke through my thoughts. "You know what they say. Live," he said, the smugness dripping from his words. "Dress for the job you want. Maybe if you bought a nice suit once in a while, investors would take you seriously." "Oh, wait. You don't have investors, do you? Just that little app?" I felt the blood drain from my face as I glanced at him. A part of me wanted to scream, to tell him just how wrong he was. But I held it in. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. "You bought him a Porsche," I said, my voice steady, despite the rage bubbling inside me. "You told me last week you couldn't co-sign a lease for a server farm because cash flow was tight." William's dismissive shrug sent a chill through me. "Cash flow is tight for risky ventures," he said, as though that explained everything. "Investments in Julian are a sure thing. He's family. He's loyal. He's here actually working, not chasing fantasies." The words stung. I could feel the anger welling up inside me, the injustice of it all. It wasn't just the money they were throwing at Julian. It was the way they had dismissed everything I had built, the sacrifices I had made, the risks I had taken. And yet, here I was, invisible in their eyes. Julian wasn't the one who had spent sleepless nights worrying about deadlines. He wasn't the one who had given up everything for a dream that had seemed impossible at times. He wasn't the one who had fought tooth and nail to get to where I was, but he was the one getting the accolades. He was the one they were celebrating. And that realization that they had all missed the mark on me hurt more than anything else. I didn't respond to Julian's taunts. I didn't argue with William's dismissals. Instead, I sat back in my chair, steadying my breath, focusing on my resolve. I was better than this. I was better than them. They couldn't break me. They couldn't steal my success. What they didn't realize, what they never would, was that success isn't handed to you. You don't inherit it. You don't buy it. You build it. And that's exactly what I had done. They couldn't see it now. But one day, they would see the empire I was creating, not out of their money or their connections, but out of my own determination and grit. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their validation. I had already proven everything I needed to prove. "You're wasting your potential," William said, as though he were delivering a judgment. "You could be so much more Olivia if you just applied yourself." The words rolled off my back, their sting dulled by the weight of everything I had endured. I was done chasing their approval. I was done trying to fit into their mold. I was carving my own path, and I wasn't going to stop for anyone, not even for my family. Julian kept pushing. Of course, he kept trying to get under my skin. "When are you going to give it up, Liv?" he asked again, his voice dripping with false concern. "You're almost 30, you're single, and you're still clinging to that app. It's embarrassing for the family." His words didn't bother me anymore. I had stopped caring about his opinions a long time ago. "You don't get it, do you?" I asked, my voice low but firm. "I'm not doing this for you. I'm not doing this for anyone else. I'm doing it for me." The silence that followed was deafening. Julian's smug grin faltered just slightly, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, but he quickly masked it, taking another sip of his drink. Sophie remained silent, her eyes flicking between the two of us. I couldn't help but wonder what she saw when she looked at me. Did she see a failure, too? Did she think I was just some dreamer, chasing a fantasy? Or did she see the truth even if she was too afraid to admit it? Either way, it didn't matter. I had built something they couldn't see, something real, something they would never understand. And one day they would have to reckon with that. They would have to reckon with me. I didn't have to prove myself to them anymore. I had already done that. I had proven it with every line of code, every sleepless night, every sacrifice. And that was something Julian and the rest of my family would never understand. Not until it was too late. The tension in the room was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. My family had just delivered their final blow, cutting me off completely, like some outdated, useless appendage they had no need for anymore. I was their failure, the one who had never quite fit in, the one who had spent years chasing an impossible dream. But the worst part, the part that made it sting the most, it was how easily they'd done it. No emotion, no remorse, just business, just a decision made over a glass of scotch and a couple of words. "We're doing this for your own good," Julian had said, his smile wide and cruel, like he was finally getting to play the role he'd always dreamed of, the man who had it all. My stomach had churned as they casually dismissed everything I had worked for, everything I had fought for. I could feel their eyes on me as if I were some broken doll they'd grown tired of. But that was the moment when I felt it, the shift, the flicker of something inside me. I wasn't going to take this. Not anymore. I wasn't just going to sit here and let them crush me. I had worked too hard for too long to let them take everything from me. I gripped my glass, the thin stem digging into my palm, and forced myself to breathe, to stay calm. I could feel the weight of my emotions: rage, humiliation, sadness, but I swallowed it all down. I couldn't let them see me break. They had already written me off. But the truth was, I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I had built something they couldn't even comprehend, and they had no idea what was coming. The moment the doorbell rang was the moment everything changed. The chime cut through the suffocating silence like a herald, and all eyes turned to the screen. My family hadn't even noticed it at first, too busy gloating in their small victories, congratulating themselves for having finally gotten rid of me. But then the news anchor's voice echoed through the room, carrying the kind of weight that made even Julian pause, his fork halfway to his mouth. And now, breaking news from the downtown tech corridor. The anchor began, her voice crisp and professional as though she were delivering a routine report. A massive development is sending shockwaves through the financial sector this evening. Streamline, a data compression startup based right here in the city, has just announced a full acquisition by global tech giant Omnicorp. The deal, which was signed just hours ago, is valued at a staggering $100 million. The words hit like a thunderclap. My name flashed on the screen beside the anchor in black letters. It was surreal, watching myself on the television, watching the words 100 million deal appear next to my tired, frayed face. It wasn't a stock photo. It wasn't some distant image of a woman who was about to become rich. It was me. And that's when it all began to unravel. My father's face froze. He looked like he had just seen a ghost, the scotch glass in his hand trembling slightly. Julian's fork dropped to the plate with a loud clatter, his jaw going slack as he stared at the screen. For a split second, the room was completely still. The only sound was the crackling of the fire in the background and the steady beat of my heart. And then, slowly, it hit them. The reality they had tried so hard to bury, to suppress, to control, was right there in front of them, unshakable and undeniable. That's not possible, Julian stammered, his voice high and tight. His eyes darted between the screen and me, like he was trying to figure out if this was some sick joke. Liv, are you? His words trailed off, the disbelief choking him. I didn't answer. There was no need. The truth was right there. Broadcast to the world. My $100 million deal. My success. It was more than they had ever given me credit for. More than they could ever understand. I glanced at my father, sitting across from me, his hand still gripping his phone, but his eyes glued to the screen. The firelight flickered across his face, casting long shadows, and I saw something I had never expected to see: fear. He had always been so sure of himself, so confident in his place at the top. But now, the mask was slipping, the facade of control was cracking. "This can't be real," my father murmured, his voice shaky, his confidence evaporating. He pulled his phone out of his pocket and began scrolling furiously. I watched him watch the panic rise in his face, his fingers fumbling over the screen as he tried to verify what was happening. I could see him struggling to make sense of it, to grasp the reality that everything they had dismissed, everything they had underestimated, was suddenly right in front of them. "It's not a joke," I said quietly, my voice calm, steady, almost soothing in its certainty. "And it's not a deep fake." I could feel their eyes on me, trying to process the words, the reality of it all. "The deal closed at 4 p.m., I continued, my voice growing firmer, more confident with every word. "The wire transfer hits my account on Monday morning." I took a sip of water, the glass cool in my hand, the reality of my words setting in. They were still frozen, staring at me, at the screen, their mouths slightly open in shock. The arrogance that had once radiated from them was gone, replaced by confusion and fear. "100 million, William whispered, the words barely escaping his lips. He couldn't even finish the sentence. the disbelief choking him. I could feel the shift in the air, the change in the atmosphere. For the first time, I wasn't the one who was powerless. I wasn't the one at the mercy of their judgments, their criticisms, their expectations. I had done it. I had built something real, something that couldn't be dismissed or ignored. Give or take a few million for taxes and legal fees, I said softly, watching them absorb the reality of the moment. But yes, the useless toy turned out to be quite valuable. The silence that followed was deafening. Julian, his face now ashen, slowly lowered the remote in his hand, his fingers trembling. He looked at me, and then he looked back at the TV, his eyes searching for something, anything that could explain this. The car, the condo, the CEO title, all of it had been a show, a lie. They had thought they could take everything from me, my inheritance, my parents' respect, my safety net. But they had forgotten one thing. I wasn't playing by their rules. I had built this, and I was just getting started. You lied, Julian spat, his voice rising with a fury that didn't match the confusion in his eyes. You sat there and let us... He slammed his hand on the table, making the silverware jump. You let us talk like that. You set us up. I didn't say a word, Julian, I replied calmly, cutting my turkey with slow, deliberate motions. I could feel my pulse steadying, my body relaxing now that I had control. I had been a victim for too long, but not anymore. You were the one doing all the talking. You and Dad. I just listened. William, still staring at the TV, seemed to snap out of his daze. His face had turned red, the anger bubbling beneath the surface. This is impossible, he stammered, his fingers fumbling with his phone again. A deal that size, I would have heard about it. I know everyone at Omnicorp. I know the board members. This isn't real. I leaned back in my chair, my eyes never leaving his. You know the board members. Dad, you play golf with the old guard. You don't know the tech acquisition team. They don't play golf. They write checks. I could feel the shift in the room. The power dynamic had changed, and they could feel it too. Julian's eyes darted between me and the TV, his disbelief slowly turning into frustration. What do you mean, the tech acquisition team? He muttered. Who would acquire your little project? It's worthless. I turned my head toward the screen, where my face still lingered on the corner graphic. The words, 100 million deal, flashed in bold letters next to my name. Is it? I asked, my voice steady. I could feel the satisfaction rising in my chest. They didn't see it. They didn't see what I had built. But they were about to. Can you turn the volume up, Julian? I said, my voice low and calm. The 6 o'clock business report is about to start. I think you might find it educational. Julian let out a sharp, barking laugh, his voice rising in disbelief. You want to watch the news, he sneered. What, is there a segment on how to file for bankruptcy or maybe fashion tips for the unemployed? Just turn it on. Julian, I said, my patience thinning. He looked at me for a moment, his brow furrowed, before rolling his eyes at Sophie, who was still snickering into her wine glass. Finally, he pressed the button on the remote, and the volume bar on the screen climbed. The room was suddenly filled with the urgent, energetic theme music of the Channel 6 Evening News. The anchor, a woman with severe hair and a bright red blazer, looked down at her papers before addressing the camera. And we'll have the weather in a moment, she said, her voice crisp and professional. But first, a massive breaking story coming out of the downtown tech corridor this evening. A local development thaw. T is sending shockwaves through the financial sector. William frowned, shifting in his seat, clearly unnerved. The financial sector, he muttered under his breath. I haven't heard anything. Julian, did you hear anything? Julian shrugged dismissively, his eyes still on the TV. Probably some zoning change. boring stuff. Actually, the anchor continued, her voice now focused and urgent. It's a Cinderella story for the digital age. Streamline, a data compression startup based right here in the city, has just announced a full acquisition by global tech giant Omnicorp. The room fell deathly silent as the anchor's words hit home. The deal, valued at a staggering $100 million, was signed just hours ago. Streamline's founder, 29-year-old Olivia Williams, developed the proprietary algorithm entirely on her own, reportedly working out of a studio apartment for the last 5 years. The camera cut to B-roll footage, showing the exterior of Omnicorp headquarters before cutting to a clip of me shaking hands with the Omnicorp CEO. I was wearing the same frayed blazer I had worn all night. I looked tired. Yes, but I was smiling. A real smile. A relieved smile. Ms. Williams could not be reached for further comment this evening, the anchor continued. She is reportedly celebrating privately with family. I turned to look at my family then, at the stunned faces around the table. They had no idea what was coming, and I wasn't about to tell them. Not yet. The silence that followed the news felt heavy, suffocating. My father's phone had exploded with notifications, each one more frantic than the last. I watched him, his face flushed, eyes darting from the screen to me, back to the screen again. Julian's mouth was hanging open, his fork forgotten in his hand. Sophie was looking between the two of us like she was watching a tennis match, trying to process what was happening. I sat still, calm, letting the moment stretch. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me flinch. My father's face twitched as he finally broke the silence. I knew you were up to something, Olivia, he said, his voice shaky but still dripping with that arrogance I had grown up with. But I didn't think it would be this. He paused, eyes narrowing, as if he were trying to find a way to explain away the success that was now threatening to upend everything he thought he knew. You've always been so secretive, so difficult. I could feel the edge in his voice. It wasn't genuine concern, it was a resentment. I had caught him off guard. I had done something he couldn't control. I didn't ask for your help, Dad, I said quietly, my voice cutting through the tension like a knife. I wasn't shouting. I wasn't angry, just matter of fact. You didn't give me anything. You didn't believe in me, and I didn't need your validation to succeed. William's face twisted as though my words had hit him in a place he wasn't used to being touched. He opened his mouth to speak, but I held up a hand. I wasn't finished. I wasn't going to let them twist this moment, not again, not this time. You thought I needed you, I continued, my gaze steady, never leaving him. You thought I needed your approval, your money, your legacy. I let the silence stretch between us, watching the realization slowly dawn in his eyes. But I didn't. I built this on my own. Julian, still sitting there with his fork in his hand, finally found his voice. He looked from me to the TV, where my face was still flashing across the screen, and then back to my father. Dad, what are we going to do? He asked, his voice more desperate than I had ever heard it. The arrogance was gone now. The smugness was stripped away, leaving behind only fear. I could see the shift in him. He was no longer the golden child, the heir to the throne. He was just a man who had been caught in a lie that I had exposed. We're going to fix this, William muttered, his voice low, barely audible. He was grasping for control, for some way to explain this mess. But I wasn't about to let him. Not anymore. This isn't something to fix, I said, my voice rising just slightly. I could feel the weight of my words settle in the room. This is something you have to accept. You don't control me anymore. You don't control anything about me. There was a moment of stillness, and then, just as quickly, the room seemed to explode. You can't just leave us like this. Liv, Julian snapped, his voice rising to match the anger that was bubbling up inside him. What are you going to do now, huh? You think you can just walk away with all of this? His eyes darted to my father, searching for validation. But my father was still staring at his phone, the glow of the screen reflecting off his face. It was like he was trying to ignore the reality around him. I looked at Julian, my gaze steady. I wasn't going to back down. I'm not leaving anything. Julian, I said, my voice calm. I'm standing up for myself. For the first time in my life, I'm not going to let you or Dad or anyone else tell me who I am or what I'm worth. I could feel the energy in the room shift. For the first time, I wasn't the one who was at their mercy. I wasn't the one scrambling to fit into their narrative. I was the one in control now. You don't get it, do you? I continued, leaning forward slightly. You think this is about the money? You think this is about the $100 million. But it's not. It's about the fact that you never once believed in me. You never once thought I could do it. And that's the real issue here. Sophie, who had been silent until now, let out a soft chuckle, her eyes flicking nervously between me and the others. She had always been the one to side with Julian, the one to play the part of the perfect wife. But even she couldn't ignore the truth anymore. She looked at her husband, a flicker of doubt in her eyes, and then at me. I don't understand, she said softly, as if she were trying to make sense of a puzzle that had just broken apart. How did I do it? I finished for her, my voice steady. I built it myself, from the ground up. You've never seen the work I put in, Sophie. You've never seen the nights I spent coding while you and Julian were out playing golf or having dinner at country clubs. You've never seen the sacrifices I made. My voice dropped, softer now, but no less intense. You never saw how hard it was. Sophie swallowed, looking down at her hands. But she didn't speak. I wasn't going to waste time trying to convince her or anyone else anymore. This wasn't about their approval. It was about you don't get to claim credit for my success, I said, my eyes now on William. You don't get to rewrite the story. I did this. Not you, not Julian, me. The room was silent, and for the first time, I felt like the air had shifted. There was no anger in my voice anymore, no frustration, just a quiet confidence that I hadn't had before. I had spent so long trying to earn their respect, their approval, but now I realized I didn't need it. Not from them, not from anyone. I don't need your money, your legacy, or your approval, I said. My voice finally steady, no longer laced with the bitterness I had felt earlier. I've built my own. Julian's face twisted, the mask of arrogance slipping as the realization hit him. You're serious, aren't you? He asked, his voice faltering. It wasn't the same confident Julian I had known for years. It wasn't the man who thought he could have everything handed to him. It was a man who had been exposed, who had been stripped of his illusions. I'm more serious than I've ever been, I said calmly. Rising to my feet, I wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. You'll never understand what I've built, Julian. You'll never understand what it took. And that's fine. But don't you dare try to take credit for it now. The weight of the room seemed to shift with those words. And as I stood there, calm and confident, I realized something. This wasn't just about proving them wrong anymore. It was about proving myself right. I had spent so long trying to live up to their expectations, to show them I was capable. But now, I was fine, and they had no power over me anymore. I turned to leave, but then I paused. I looked back at them, at my father, at Julian, at Sophie. You won't get to claim credit for this, I said again, my voice low but firm. Not now, not ever. And with that, I walked out of the room. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was truly standing on my own. I wasn't hiding behind anyone's approval anymore. I wasn't a failure. I was a success. And nothing, not even my family, could take that away from me. The press conference was a whirlwind, a blur of flashing cameras and murmurs of disbelief. My family had set it all up, the announcement, the press coverage, the carefully crafted narrative that made it seem like they were the ones who had guided me to success. But I wasn't going to let them get away with it. Not this time. As I stepped into the room, the eyes of the press were already on me, the weight of their gaze heavy, expectant. William and Julian stood at the podium, smiling, poised, as if they were the ones who had orchestrated this victory. My father was speaking, his voice smooth, but the tension in his eyes was evident. "This acquisition's not just a win for Olivia," he was saying, "but a win for the Williams family. It's a testament to the legacy we've built here and to the future that Julian will continue to shape." The words were a lie, and I could feel my blood boiling as he spoke them. They had done everything in their power to claim credit for my success, to rewrite the story in their favor, but I wasn't going to let them control this moment. I walked to the microphone, calm and steady, my heart pounding in my chest. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need to make something clear," I said, my voice cutting through the tension in the room. The cameras shifted towards me, their lenses focused on my every move. Julian turned to look at me, his smile faltering as he realized what was happening. He opened his mouth, but I raised a hand, silencing him. "My name is Olivia Williams," I continued, my voice steady but firm, "founder and sole owner of Streamline, and I want to make one thing perfectly clear. There is no partnership with the Williams Group. There is no involvement from my family in this company. This success is mine, and mine alone." The room went silent. I could see the shock on my father's face, the panic rising in his eyes. He knew what was coming. He knew I was about to expose them all. "Streamline was built entirely on my own," I said, my words deliberate, measured. Every line of code, every sleepless night, every sacrifice, this was not a product of your so-called family legacy. This was a product of my hard work, my vision, and my resilience. I could feel the power shift in the room. For so long, they had controlled the narrative. For so long, they had tried to claim my achievements as their own, but not anymore. "I've had enough of the lies," I said, my voice growing more confident with every word. "Enough of the manipulation. You do not get to rewrite my story. I am not your cautionary tale. I am not your failure. I am a success." The press murmured in surprise, the cameras clicking away furiously, capturing every moment. My family stood frozen, the weight of my words sinking in. William looked like he might crumble, his face flushed with anger and disbelief. But he didn't say anything. He couldn't. He knew the truth was out now. "And Julian," I said, turning my gaze to him, "you don't get to claim credit for this either. You don't get to pretend you had any part in this success. You've never worked for anything in your life. You've never known what it's like to fight for your dreams. So don't stand there pretending you were ever part of the journey." Julian's face twisted with a mixture of anger and humiliation, but he couldn't respond, not when the truth was staring him in the face. "The Williams family doesn't get to take credit for what I've done," I said, my voice rising, taking control of the narrative. "I built this company, I fought for this, and I did it on my own. Without your help, without your approval, I've spent my entire life trying to earn your respect. But I don't need it anymore. I don't need anything from you." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. The power dynamic had shifted. For the first time, I was in control. For the first time, I was the one calling the shots. I wasn't just the daughter, the sister, the failure they had written me off as. I was Olivia Williams, a self-made entrepreneur, a woman who had built something real, something powerful, and no one could take that from me. I'm done letting you define me, I said, my voice steady, resolute. And I'm done letting you take credit for what I've worked so hard to build. This is my victory, and no one is going to steal it from me. I turned away from the podium, the cameras still flashing, the sound of murmurs and gasps filling the air. For the first time in my life, I felt free. The chains that had held me back, my family's expectations, their judgment had finally been broken, and I was standing on my own. For the first time, I was truly in control. Looking back, it's hard to believe how far I've come. There were days, countless days, when I wondered if it was all worth it. The sleepless nights, the constant doubts, the feeling that I was never going to make it. But I kept going. And now standing here with everything I've built, I can say with certainty that all of it, every sacrifice, every obstacle was worth it. My journey hasn't been easy. I've faced betrayal from the people who were supposed to support me, rejection from those I thought would believe in me the most. But through it all, I've learned one thing: success isn't about the money. It's about proving to yourself that you can do it, that you can rise above the noise, above the doubt, and create something real. And that's exactly what I've done. I've built a company, I've built a future, and I've done it on my terms. The best part, no one can take that away from me. I didn't need their validation, their approval. I've learned that the most important approval is your own. I'm not just standing here because of my success. I'm standing here because I refused to give up, because I believed in myself, even when no one else did. So, if you've ever felt like giving up, if you've ever wondered if it's worth the fight, take it from me. It is. Keep pushing, keep believing, and just know, sometimes the best revenge is simply being your best self. Thank you for watching. And if you want to see more stories of resilience and triumph, feel free to stick around. You never know when the next victory will be just around the corner.